This story takes me back over 2 decades ago, when I was just a kid. I grew up in a rural town, even further out in the sticks. To get to the city, it would take more than 2 hours by train. It's that kind of place. But it wasn't like those dramas or movies where everyone knows each other and gets along well in the shopping district. There wasn't that warm and friendly atmosphere. Although there weren't many people living there, nobody was really interested in each other. For better or worse, that's how I remember the town. Then came the summer I entered 7th grade. I had a bit of an unusual experience, which I'll talk about today. It happened one day during the summer vacation. My parents had divorced when I was very young, and at the time, I was living with my maternal grandparents. My mom worked during the day, and since my grandfather had passed away early due to illness, it was usually just my grandmother, who had trouble walking, and me spending time together. She was always smiling and kind, not much of a talker, but she would listen to me for as long as I wanted. I've always loved my grandmother for that. So, I never really felt lonely even when my mom wasn't around during the day. That day, I was supposed to go to the local pool with a friend, but they had to cancel at the last minute, so I was a bit sulky from the morning. Then my grandmother suggested we go together, and she ended up coming with me to the pool. She couldn't get into the water because she used a wheelchair, but she watched over me from nearby, so I was able to have plenty of fun on my own. Especially since it was incredibly hot that day. The water felt amazing. But back then, I was only thinking about myself, not considering my grandmother at all. Unable to enter the water, she had to sit in the scorching heat, which led to her getting a mild case of heat stroke. On our way back, I pushed her wheelchair and apologized. "Grandma, I'm sorry. It was really hot, wasn't it?" But she was cooling her forehead with an ice pack we got from the pool staff, smiling as she always did.
It's all right. I enjoyed spending time outside after so long, and I was really happy to see you having fun, Jason.
Despite feeling guilty, I was really happy to hear her say that. She seemed to feel better by the time we got home after drinking lots of water. But she still seemed tired, so she lied down as soon as we got back.
We were supposed to watch that drama together this evening. Sorry we couldn't,
she said, looking apologetic. We had been watching a drama series that was being rerun just for the summer holidays.
Don't worry about it. I'll record it, so just rest up, Grandma,
I said, and then I went back to my room. Then I must have been tired too, because I fell asleep before I knew it. I woke up to the sound of the house phone ringing. Since my grandmother had difficulty walking, I was the one who usually answered the phone.
Hello?
I said as I ran to pick up the receiver, and it was my mom on the other end.
Hello, Jason. I'm going to be late tonight because of overtime. I won't be home for dinner, so could you tell Grandma to order takeout or something?
My mom is a nurse. Though her hours are supposed to be fixed by her shift, it's not uncommon for her to stay late if there's an emergency. On days that aren't like this, she usually makes a delicious dinner, so we were used to it.
All right, I got it. Take care at work,
I replied and hung up, then headed to my grandmother's room. Grandma used to cook dinner for us, but since she became wheelchair-bound, it's been difficult for her to stand in the kitchen. So, when Mom was late, we would order takeout. When I entered Grandma's room, it seemed like she had just woken up from the sound of the phone. After I explained the situation, she asked me to get her wallet from the cupboard, which I did as told. Then,
oh no.
It was rare for Grandma to raise her voice like that, So I immediately asked, "What's wrong?"
We used up the cash at the pool earlier. I don't have any on hand. This is troublesome.
Really? That's a problem.
I was in a bind. I spent all the money in my wallet buying cooling patches and drinks for Grandma earlier, so now it's completely empty. She said she'd be late, but she's definitely coming back today. I was hungry, but I thought maybe we'd just have to wait for Mom to come home. Just then,
I'll go withdraw some money.
Grandma said that as she tried to stand up. But she was unsteady even getting to her wheelchair, and I could tell she hadn't fully recovered yet.
Wait, Grandma, it's dangerous. You should keep resting. I'll go.
Or so I said. But as a kid who had just started middle school, I had never used a bank before. I had no idea what to do, but I couldn't bear the thought of letting her go in her condition.
Jason, can you do it?
Sure enough, Grandma was worried. But I reassured her, of course. I'm in middle school now, right? Just tell me what to do. Somehow convinced, Grandma then told me what I needed to do at the bank. It was essentially about how to use the ATM. She said it should be fine as long as I carefully followed the instructions on the screen. So, with the bank book and a note with the pin in hand, I set off. I had seen Mom use ATMs a few times before, but I always thought of it as something far removed from me, a child. Though it wasn't my account, taking this step felt like moving closer to adulthood, and I remember feeling a bit proud. The nearest bank was about a 5-minute walk away. Grandma had said that the ATM was immediately to the right after entering the door, but when I got to the specified place, my heart sank, because the ATM had an out-of-order sign on it. It looked like there was only one machine. And the sign also read, "We apologize for the inconvenience. Please use the counter service or visit another branch." It was clear that this ATM wasn't an option. And the other branch didn't seem to be within walking distance, leaving me at a loss. But I didn't want to go back without accomplishing the task Grandma had entrusted to me. Determined not to give up, I decided to go to the counter. Although Grandma had only told me about using the ATM, I figured the bank staff could tell me what to do at the counter. Stepping into a bank alone for the first time was a new experience for me. Naturally, there were no other kids my age around, making me feel out of place and quite nervous. But wanting to reassure Grandma, I pushed forward to the counter. I timidly approached the nearest female teller, but she interrupted me with, "Please show me your number ticket," leaving me puzzled. Getting a number ticket is common at banks and government offices for adults, but I had no idea about that at the time.
Yeah.
When I seemed confused, an employee noticed and told me, "There's a machine over there where you can get a number ticket. Please take one and then come up when you're called." They did explain what to do, so maybe they were trying to be helpful. But at that moment, I felt somewhat rejected by their impersonal, businesslike tone, which hurt a bit. Holding on to that anxiety, I did as instructed and took a number ticket. And I waited with my head down until my number was called. I thought if I looked up, I'd become too conscious of people's stares. Finally, when my number was called, I walked up to the counter. Then a different male employee was sitting there this time, and our eyes met briefly before he quickly looked away.
This?
I tried to hand over my number ticket with a bit of forced cheerfulness. The employee looked surprised and said, "Really? Just you?" I felt a bit offended at this point. Sure, I was still a kid, but I was already in 7th grade. I shouldn't be treated like a little kid. Though I admit, I am on the short side. It felt like the employees were underestimating me because I was a child. Despite being scared until just a moment ago, I started feeling a bit defiant and said,
Yes, I'm here to withdraw some money.
I thought clearly stating my purpose would get me recognized as a customer. But the male employee laughed and said, "If you're just fooling around, please leave. We don't have time to waste on broke kids," and shooed me away with his hand.
I'm not kidding. I have my bank book and card right here.
I tried to argue, but the employee wouldn't listen. He probably thought it was unusual for a child to come to the counter, and that the amount I wanted to withdraw wasn't significant. Sure, I was only withdrawing $20 for dinner, not a large sum. But to dismiss me as poor and refuse me service just because I was a child was incredibly unfair.
Is there a rule that kids can't do this?
I retorted, but the indifferent employee had already started calling the next number, and the next customer looked at me with suspicion.
I guess this place isn't meant for kids after all.
I couldn't help but feel that way as I trudged home. When I got back, my grandmother asked with concern,
You took quite a while. Are you okay?
I had intended to just mention the ATM being out of order without showing any concern. But the experience at the counter had been so frustrating. I ended up tearing up. After I explained what happened, my grandmother soothed me, saying, "I see, that must have been hard. I'm sorry you had to go through that." In the end, we decided to make sandwiches together and wait for my mom to come home. When I told my mom the same story, she got angry on my behalf, saying, "That's terrible treatment just because you're a kid." Despite being tired from overtime, she cooked delicious fried chicken and stir-fried vegetables. The incident at the bank counter was shocking, but the support from my kind grandmother and mom helped lessen the sting. I figured I wouldn't be going back to the bank anytime soon, and that things would be different when I'm an adult. I decided to keep it as an unpleasant memory, tucked away deep inside. But sooner than I had tucked it away, I faced the issue again. A few days later, my grandmother invited me for a walk in the neighborhood. Then she said,
Would you mind if we stop by the bank over there?
I froze for a moment. I wouldn't feel the same way with my grandmother by my side. But since the wound hadn't fully healed, I hesitated. Understanding my reluctance, she asked, "You're still upset about what happened, aren't you? Would you rather not go?" But I thought it would be uncool to dwell on the negativity, so I said, "No, it's fine," and agreed to go to the bank with her. Right upon entering the bank, I was in for a shocking experience.
Welcome.
Right in front of the door, 2 employees said that and bowed. Of course, I hadn't received such treatment the last time I was here. I remember being surprised at how differently I was treated just because I was with an adult. But it seemed there was more to it than that. As they raised their heads from the bow, I inadvertently exclaimed,
You were the ones from last time.
Yes, they were the same female and male employees who had served me previously. Having just had such an unpleasant experience, I wasn't exactly keen on seeing their faces again. But before I could dwell on it, they apologized. "We were very rude last time, and we apologize."
Why?
I was happy to receive the apology, but it felt as if they knew I was coming, which was surprising. Wondering what was happening, I looked at my grandmother's face. She was just smiling warmly as always. Still not understanding what was going on, my grandmother and I were led into an inner room. Then they served me orange juice and my grandmother coffee. What surprised me there was that they somehow knew my grandmother's preference for 1 milk, 2 sugars right from the start. I knew this because she often said, "I know it's bad for me, but I love sweet things." But how did these employees know? As I pondered this, my grandmother began to speak.
Actually, after that, your mom and I discussed it and decided to open an account for you, Jason.
Saying that, she handed me a brand new bank book, different from the one she had kept for me before.
Heck, really?
My very own bank book for the first time. It really made me feel grown up, and I was incredibly happy. Then my grandmother continued.
Now, my grandson is officially a customer. Can I trust that such treatment will not happen again?
The employees were taken aback by her words.
Yes, we're very sorry.
Listening to this, I had thought, my grandmother must have called the bank to complain about how they treated her grandson. But that was only half right and half wrong. The true answer became clear after hearing what the employees had to say next.
After hearing from the former chairman, we realized our mistake. We thought if a child came in, they would just be playing around and it would be a waste of our time, but we were wrong. We should have at least asked about the situation, and such language was inexcusable. We're deeply ashamed. Sorry.
The regret they felt for their previous service was evident, and although the shock I experienced at that time won't disappear, this helped me feel like I could finally digest it. But honestly, what intrigued me more was the mention of former chairman. I immediately voiced my curiosity, asking, "What do you mean by chairman?" to my grandmother. And then, a surprising fact was revealed. It turns out my grandmother was once the chairman of this bank. Meaning, even though she had retired, she held a significant position for the bank. That's why the employees were so nervous and even knew how she liked her coffee.
Yes, a customer's trust must be earned, and that trust is determined by how they are treated, regardless if they are a child or not.
Hearing this, the employees bowed deeply. After being apologized to multiple times, I kept saying, "It's okay," over and over again. And so, my somewhat special experience came to an end. Until now, she was the sweet grandmother I loved. But after this incident, I felt like something about her had changed a bit. She became the kind and cool grandmother I admire. Even if she was the chairman, without people's respect, she wouldn't have been treated so preciously. Her words about trust made me realize it's something I too want to live by. It's been over 2 decades since then. My grandmother is no longer here, but the lessons and experiences from that time still live on within me. While I'm far from being a chairman, I now hold a position of responsibility and strive daily to be a trusted leader like my grandmother. If she's watching from above, I hope she's smiling with her usual warm smile.